Welcome to the Collide Kids Podcast, hosted by Christen Clark. This is a show for kids and families. You are going to meet new people and have fun while you listen. Let's do it!
Hey, y'all. Welcome back to the Collide Kids Podcast. I'm your host, Christen Clark. The Collide Kids Podcast is a show for kids and families where we learn together how life and faith collide. I'm so glad you're listening today. And can you believe we're at the very end of March? I just can't believe it. This year is flying by. I think we always say that. Adults always say that when we get older. It's part of being an adult, I guess. It's just feeling like time passes you by. But I know I feel the effects of spring because of these colds and allergy season and all the germs surrounding us, all the sneezing and coughing. It's so much fun, which is kind of tough when you're a podcaster because you have to use your voice and try not to cough the entire time. So last episode, I was struggling a little bit, but today I'm feeling a lot better. And so I'm really glad to be here with you. I hope your allergies are doing okay. Hey, this season, we have introduced a brand new segment called Let's Talk About It. So at the end of the interview, I'm going to ask you 3 questions, and it's just for you and your family to talk about it. Now, some of the questions might be silly or imaginative or faith-filled, but all of the questions are designed to spark some great family conversations because that's what this show is all about, is getting you and your family together to talk through some interesting things. So be sure to stick around until the end of the interview for that. Well, today's episode, I think, is going to be a really great conversation starter for families. One, because it's all about technology and designing technology. And I think it's so interesting how people create apps and software and things like that. And so if you're a tech person, I think you're really going to enjoy this conversation. But also, it's so important to talk with our kids, to talk with our parents about how often we are using technology and how often we are stuck to our devices. I am really excited for you guys to meet my guest today. His name is Erick Vargas. He is a Christian entrepreneur and co-founder of Sabbath Space. It's an app that helps people disconnect from technology and reconnect with their faith, family, and community. Erick was inspired by his own struggle with tech addiction, so he created Sabbath Space to help Christians regain control over their time and their focus. With a background in seminary and technology, Erick's mission is to guide individuals toward more intentional, mindful use of technology and fostering stronger spiritual connections and relationships. Now, listen, I know this is going to be a tough one to listen to and to talk about, but I think it's so important that we work on this together as a family. So buckle in. I know you're going to enjoy this conversation. You're going to get a lot out of it, and you're going to be so thankful that you listened. Here is my conversation with Erick Vargas. Erick Vargas, I am so excited to have you on the Collide Kids Podcast.
Thanks for having me. Excited to be here.
Yeah, welcome. I'm glad you're here. Would you just share a little bit with our listeners about who you are and what you do?
Yeah, so I'm a Christian entrepreneur. I run a software company, a software startup called Follow Up CRM based out of South Florida. With that, I also take my kind of learnings in the software and tech world, and I build apps on the side for Christians in the church and just kind of merging my 2 passions together of technology and the church in Christ and just helping the church grow.
I think that's awesome. And I think a lot of us are familiar with apps and things like that. So we're very grateful when there's Christian entrepreneurs who are pursuing apps that help us with our faith. Okay, so I want to talk to you a little bit more about this and how you got started in that. But before we do that, because this is a show for kids, I always ask my guests to tell me a joke. So what have you got for us?
All right, so because I'm in tech, it's a little tech joke, and I'll explain it if you don't know what it is. But Why did the software developer go broke?
I don't know.
Because he used up all his cash.
Ah. Okay, I think you will have to explain that.
Yeah,
I know what that is.
Yeah, so cash is basically like something in your browser that remembers kind of, where you recently been on the internet. And so that's basically it. It's just like a tech term, and it sounds like money, but it's not. And so
and
that's
it's spelled different too, right? It's like
it's like cachet.
Yeah, there you go. Good. I like that. A fun tech joke. That's awesome. So let's start with your story. So how did you get into apps? Is that something you've always been interested in, is technology? Was that something you were passionate about as a kid?
No, actually.
Okay.
I had no idea what I was going to do when I was going to grow up. Actually, I joke with my wife that I remember being in middle school and high school, not knowing how the world worked and just saying, wow, I have no talents. I'm not that impressive. I don't know what I'm going to do. I'm probably going to be homeless. And kind of being worried. But, thankfully, my mom always said, you have to get into technology. And I said, no. And look where I am today. I run a software company. Right.
Mom was right.
She was right. And she was totally right. And I thought I was actually going to go into politics for a little bit. I thought I was going to be a pastor for a little bit. I actually just graduated from seminary last year. That's something that's a little different. But so I got into tech after college. I went to Liberty University.
So did I.
Oh, great. What year?
Yay. A long time ago.
Me too. So we only have to go there.
Okay.
Yeah. So I studied business entrepreneurship there. I did not know how to start a business after that. So, but the best way to actually learn to start a business is to start a business.
That's true. Yes.
Not to learn about starting businesses. But anyways, so had a great time at Liberty, met my wife. We moved down here to South Florida. I got a job right out of school at a software company called Citrix. And it's kind of just like a old, not exciting company, but it was a good first job. And I did young adults ministry right out of college together. So I thought I was going to be a pastor, but when you get married, you got to get to work. And so God said yes to both, even though it wasn't a full-time vocational ministry. I still continued doing ministry today.
That's great. I love that. And so you got started with this company building apps. What was it about that part of technology that drew you to it? Or was it just something that kind of fell in your lap?
Because I had just had some background in tech, I actually met my mentor. His name's Greg here in South Florida, just through mutual kind of church relationships. And he ran a really large construction company. And he actually started my company, Follow Up CRM, for his own construction company. And so he's been my mentor for like 8 years now. And he basically hired me to take this app and make it into a real company.
Okay.
From there, we kind of spun it out and grew the company to where it is today. And but on the side, I like to, do apps for churches. And I have Sabbath Space, which we'll talk about. And then I have another app that my wife runs around worship.
Very cool. I love that. So what's it like to build an app? Like, is it really hard, or is it something that anybody can do?
Anybody could do it. I actually don't even know how to code. So yeah.
Interesting.
Yeah. So that's the funny part is coding is a language, it might sound scary, but really it's kind of like doing math, right? Like calculus sounds hard, but maybe addition's a little bit easier. And so if you're a math kind of person, then you might like coding. If you're an arts kind of person, you might like software design, which is like taking a concept, putting it into a design, then you give that to a developer and say, hey, make this work like I want it to work, right? So the most of the things that you interact with are design. So usually when people say, oh, I like to build apps, they're really on the design creative side.
Okay.
And then they might work with a developer on the technical side.
So is that what you feel like you're more of the design type of person? And then do you have a team of people that work with you?
Yeah, that's right. I have a team of developers and I'm more on the product side and the design side and say, hey, our customers have this need. This is how I envision it. Let's work together to make it come to life.
Well, that's interesting to know because a lot of people think, oh, I don't know how to code or I don't know how to do all the details. But I think that's with any type of work. Like you don't have to know all the answers. You can find other people that have that skill set or whatever.
Absolutely. And so I would encourage anybody, if you went to like these websites called Fiverr or Upwork, these are freelance websites where you can just hire a developer and say, hey, make me this and work together. And so that's how I created actually Sabbath Space is through a contract developer. It's not as easy as just saying, hey, I have this idea, right? But there's a lot of kind of work involved, and it's kind of like if you're painting a picture for the first time, you're not going to be Bob Ross, right? You're going to start off with, I know, right? You're going to start off with stick figures, and then you're going to graduate to the next level and the next level, right? So your first app might not be great, but it's practice.
Right. That's so true. Let's talk about Sabbath Space, because I think this is going to be something that a lot of families are going to appreciate and also feel a little convicted by. Tell me the premise of why you started Sabbath Space.
Yes, everyone's going to feel convicted because I felt convicted. Everybody, right?
Yeah.
So the reason why I started Sabbath Space was to solve my own problem. So I will join the conviction train, and because, right? And so the reason why I started it is because, I just had my firstborn son, and he's 2 now. And I look at my phone, and I spent 6.5 hours that day on my phone. And I was like, what? Like, how is that possible? So I'm a pretty productive person, just graduated seminary, run a couple of companies, and and I don't spend out. I didn't think I spent hours scrolling, but an hour in the morning, an hour before bed, an hour a lot, it starts to add up. And then I realized wow, this is becoming a real distraction in my life. I don't want this to take away from the precious moments of my son growing up as a little toddler, a little baby that I'll never get back again. Right. Yeah. My wife would also tell me that, she was breastfeeding, and she used to be on her phone. And then she's like, you know what? This is only for, a year or so or less. I don't want to miss these moments that I'll never get back. And, we're out of the baby season now. And I'm so glad I was present there. Yeah. And so that's why I made it. Is because I actually know what the tech industry, big tech, all these app companies are doing to us to keep us addicted to our phones. Yeah. Even though we didn't really ask for it, right? There's all these kind of tricks that they play on us to just keep us on the device, because that's what they're in business for, is to get our attention onto the device, right? Right. So knowing all these tricks and seeing them happen to me, and then kind of succumbing to those tricks and spending that much time, it got me upset. And I said, I want my life back. Yeah. I was just imagining, what could I be doing with these 6 hours? 6 hours a day, every day. That's 42 hours a week. That's a full-time job. Oh, wow. That's true. All right. He'll make you feel really bad. Times 365. That is 100 days a year you're on your phone. Wow. Times the average lifespan, you're spending about 12 years on your phone. Wow. And it's what can you do in a decade, right? True. That's just wasted. And we all know that, the digital world is just a cheap imitation of the real physical world, right? The relationships that we have. And so I'm like, man, I really should, rather than liking my friend's post, why don't I just give them a call or try to get lunch and try to hang out, right? Yeah. And experience real life. Which would be so much more fun. Oh, yeah. So, and you called it Sabbath Space. I'd love to know why you called it that. And then would you also explain what the word Sabbath means? Because I think for some people, they might think that sounds like a church word, but I don't really know what it means. We'll be right back after this. Raising kids in the digital age isn't easy, but Bark Technology makes products that help parents keep their kids safe online and in real life. They have an app, a phone, and a home device that lets families set parental controls on their internet-connected devices. I love the app because it helps us manage screen time and blocks websites and apps we want our kids to avoid. It also sends alerts and gives us the ability to monitor texts and social media and even track your child's location. Visit bark.us to learn more about how you can keep your kids safe online. Use the code COLLIDEKIDS to get 15% off your subscription of the Bark app. absolutely a church word. So it's Sabbath means rest, basically. And, in the beginning of creation, God rested on the seventh day. And he also calls us as his people to rest on the seventh day. And so that's really the concept. I wanted to take a break and rest from all the incoming messages of the world, trying to capture our mind and capture our attention, telling me that I need to be richer or fitter or whatever it is that is not rooted in the identity that Jesus has purchased for me on the cross, and say, hey, all this is going away. This is my day to focus on the Lord and my family.
I love the name of it, Sabbath Space. So how does it work? Like if I was to download this app, is it going to like shut my phone down? Is that what it's going to do?
Yeah, good question. So it's going to make it's a good amount of discipline, right? So I would encourage everybody, go and search on your phone and look up screen time and see how much you spend and see if you're comfortable with that. You know what I mean? Like, average person, 6 and 7 hours a day, right? So Apple has some features to help limit your screen time already. And so let's say you say, I only want to be on social media for an hour a day, right? What will happen once you trigger that is a pop-up will say, do you want to bypass this? And you're smiling because we've all done it.
I do.
We've all done it.
15
and we
more
all
minutes.
bypass it.
Yeah.
15 more minutes, 15 more minutes, 15 more, right? Like 10 times. And then you're like, wow. Right.
Right.
And so I saw my wife do that and I'm like, that feature is useless. And actually Apple makes it pretty useless because they want us to be on the phone. Right. So we needed something that was a little bit more strict to not bypass as easily. Okay. What I did is I made a physical device. So the app, when you subscribe, comes with a physical device. So it's kind of interesting. So I have this right here, this keychain, and in this keychain has a chip. And when you scan the app to the keychain, it blocks the apps that you select on your phone. So you can block all social media, but still have your text messages and still have your phone, or maybe if you're working, maybe your email, right?
Yeah.
And so you can customize what apps you want blocked. So for example, have this mode, you can have different modes called a Devo mode. And so all I have available on my Devo mode is my Bible app.
Okay.
Right?
That's a good idea.
Yeah. We all wake up and may say, I'm going to do my Devos this morning. And then the Instagram notifications start to scroll in. Then you click that and then you don't do your Devos. So that's what the physical device kind of does, is that it adds that extra layer of friction so that you don't bypass it so easily. And the analogy I like to describe this as is not keeping cookies in the house. Right. So if you're on a diet, just make it easy on yourself. Don't keep the cookies in your house, because then when you have the sweet tooth in the middle of the night, you're probably not going to go to the store, buy cookie. And you're like, man, that's too much work. I'm just not going to do that. Right.
Right.
You're just going to have the apple. And so that's what the keychain does. If you're, so what I do is I scan my keychain when I enter the house, and then I'm not going to walk across the house just to waste time on social media. So I can unscan it. Right. So that's how it's kind of built-in discipline, but still making your phone a tool that it once was. Right.
That's cool. I love that. And I think that that's important. One of the things that I did, and you don't have to have the app for this, is I just removed notifications. So I only get like text message notifications, but everything else, like I don't need to be notified if something happens on social media or even emails. Like I'll check my email when I have time. So I think removing that notification thing, but that's so good that there's something like to kind of keep you prioritized, because even though I don't have notifications, I'll like still go to those apps often. And so that's where the issue is.
To really put the guilt and shame on there, like one of the best applications that I've seen it is having one of these in the car, right?
Ooh.
Scan your phone, because people are texting and driving all the time. Like I'll look at the side and people's head are down and I'm like, you're driving. Hello.
Yeah, I know, which is scary.
Which is scary, right? So that's why we have one in the car, right? So just to remove the distractions.
Yeah, I think that's awesome. Tell me a little bit more about screen time. Like, I know that it's not good for me. And there's some kids listening. They have a phone or they have a device, or maybe they have, just iPad or TV. So what are the dangers with spending I know you said the time, like it's a lot of time, but are there any other dangers we should be concerned about with spending a lot of time on screens?
Yeah, good question. So I'll tell you this. Steve Jobs and Elon Musk don't let their kids have screen time. And these are tech giants. What does that tell you?
Right.
That tells you that, when you're young, that screen time can be damaging. And
Right.
so I think they just allowed their kids to, Steve Jobs, before he passed away, like when they entered middle school or high school, did they get some screen time, right?
Mm-hmm.
And so when you're young, they know how addictive the technology is.
Right.
And what that does to your brain. And it really, what it does is it triggers this thing called dopamine. And dopamine is a chemical in your brain that fires whenever you have something good happen, right? So like whenever you get a like on social media or a Facebook or whatever it is, right? Or you get a notification. And the problem with getting all of these dopamine hits with these notifications is you start to seek more and more and more of that.
Yeah.
And that is what you want to avoid, because if you're getting, they call it cheap dopamine from your phone, you start to not enjoy the rest of your life as much.
Yeah.
Like if you want a great and full life, you want to get your dopamine from actual friends, right? And having fun and joking with them and all that, instead of like sending reels to each other, right? Right. And reels are funny and it's all good, but be the funny friend, right?
As a mom, often my kids will tell me, I'm bored, and I will tell them, that's great.
Oh, yeah.
Go figure out something to do, because that's where creativity comes. So like boredom is good for you. Boredom is okay. If your kids are sitting at home and they're bored, that is good for their brains, because then they get to go find something to excite them or to read or to put something together. So I think it's a good thing to be reminded as adults as well that it's okay for us to be bored also, so that we can put our brains to work.
I would say boredom is the beginning of imagination.
Yeah.
And so like you have to prime that imagination pump. Like I saw this just yesterday. I have a 2-year-old, and every morning he says, Dada, Bluey? And I say, no, we're not watching Bluey, right? We watch Bluey for 1 hour on Saturdays, right?
Yeah.
But every day he asks me for it, right? And I'm like, nope. And so what I did is I got him one of those classic, the wooden, like Thomas the Train things that I used to have as a kid. And he plays with it probably like 5 hours a day.
That's awesome.
And he loves it. But I love to just watch him come up with, like, imagine, different scenarios and all this stuff. And I'm like, I'm so glad that I'm not like putting him in front of a screen so he can like numb out. Right. And he's exercising his imagination. You know what I mean?
Right.
So it's such a beautiful thing.
I think that's so good too, just for, like kids when they're at a restaurant or when they're in a public place where their heads are in their phones because the parents are trying to protect that time. And I understand that. I do.
Yeah.
But I also think the kids are missing out on seeing other people and making eye contact and learning to have those important conversations. And so we want to protect our kids as much as possible. But I do think it starts with us setting a good example, and that's hard. Well, we are now realizing that we all need this app. So where do we find it? How do we get Sabbath Space on our phones today?
Yeah, so it's on the App Store, just iOS. Yeah, right now it's iPhone only.
Okay.
But we'll probably have Android later this year. You can download it from the store. When you subscribe, you'll be prompted to check out, and get an address from you so that I can ship it to you. So I ship it and my wife ships it for us. It's kind of like really a family project that we've built for ourselves, and we hope it, kind of blesses other people.
Yeah, that's great. I love that. What is something that you have learned about your relationship with God from creating apps and being in the tech world and putting this together? What's something that, God has taught you through this process?
It's so important to create. And God is the ultimate creator, the ultimate entrepreneur. And when God creates, back in Genesis, is this word called ex nihilo. And what that means is out of nothing.
Mm-hmm.
So God creates something out of nothing. And it's an amazing thing. We create out of ideas, which is almost nothing, right?
Right.
And so it's pretty cool, at least in software, to say, I have an idea, and then bring it to life. Bring it into life where somebody else can use it and like create. And it's like a magical thing to say, like, wow, I designed this keychain with a chip in it, and other people are getting value and experiences out of it. And so that's what God has taught me, is like, don't let your ideas just be an idea only, but get it out there in the world so they could bless other people.
Absolutely. That's really great encouragement. Well, Erick, this has been so good. I'm so excited about our listeners checking this app out and hopefully downloading it and starting to create some Sabbath in their digital intake, and the families would prioritize this. So I think this is really important. Before I let you go, I always ask my guests to tell me a memory from when they were a kid. So what memory do you want to share with us today?
So one of my just favorite memories, I don't know why, but I think I got my first haircut, and my dad just kind of presented me as like this new kid, as like a 3-year-old, because I had never got a haircut before, presented me to my mom. And, sometimes not having your phones around you can make ordinary things extraordinary if like parents are intentional. So that's like the lesson I kind of took away from that.
Yeah. Whenever my kids, get a haircut, they look like different people every time, like even if it's just a little bit. So that's really cool. Well, thank you for sharing that with us. And thanks again for being on the show. Tell us one more time how we can find more about you and follow you and your journey and your apps.
Yeah. So, Sabbath Space is on all social media except for Sundays, right? So not on Sundays. We're not on social media, but just download the app at the App Store, Sabbath Space. And if you fill out a form, you'll probably get an email from me. So say hi.
Okay, great. That's awesome. Well, thank you so much, Erick, for being on the show. That was so interesting. And I'm so thankful that we had that conversation and we're reminded of all the things. Like, it's so important to keep in mind that the tech companies out there, their jobs are to keep us on our devices. That's their goal. And they're using tricks to get our attention and to keep us there. So if we know we are being tricked to stay on our phones, I think we need to make better decisions. Don't you? I also appreciated that Erick said, your first time trying something might not be great, but it's practice. So keep going, keep trying, and eventually you will get better. And that applies to anything. Erick also talked about boredom and how important that is. He said, boredom is the beginning of imagination. It's the beginning of creativity. If you're not bored, your mind does not need to come up with new creative things to do or creative solutions to get out of a situation or to make something more fun. So boredom is a good thing. And it's good for us to remind our parents of that. And it's good for us to remind our kids of that. Erick also said that he learned from this process of creating apps that God is so creative. And so we can be creative too, because that's how he made us. Speaking of apps, if you want to check out the Sabbath Space app, you can find it in the App Store or go to sabbathspace.io. And there will also be a download link in our show notes for today's episode. So if you want to find it and just go to the show notes on our website or whatever podcast app you're using, you can find the link there. So you can download Sabbath Space and check it out and take some control over your screen time. All right, now it's time for one of my favorite parts of the show, our family discussion segment. This is where we ask a few fun and thoughtful questions to help you keep the conversation going with your family. So you can pause after each question to talk about it together now, or listen to all the questions and chat about them later, whatever works best for your family. So let's talk about it. Here's the first one. What is one fun or creative thing you like to do when you're bored instead of reaching for a screen? All right, here's the second one. did you know that apps and games are designed to keep us using them as long as possible? That was amazing to me to learn that today. So how can knowing that help us make smarter choices about when and how we use our screens? And here's the third one. The Bible says we are made in the image of God, and God is creative. What are some ways you've seen creativity in yourself or in your family? Well, those are the 3 questions for today. I hope that sparks some great family conversation. And if you're a fan of the show, you might be wondering, whatever happened to the kids only segment? Well, we still have it. It's just we've moved it to our YouTube channel. So whenever somebody sends one in, it will be on our YouTube episodes. So if you'd like to be on one of our YouTube episodes, you can share your favorite joke or an encouraging quote or a Bible verse or a song you love to sing. Just go to my website, collidekidspodcast.com, and click the tab. You can record right there, or you can send me a video through social media. I'm on Facebook at the Collide Kids Podcast or on Instagram at Collide Kids Pod. And don't forget, while you're on the website, be sure to sign up for the monthly newsletter. If you're on social media, I would love for you to follow us there and share today's episode with someone who might need to hear it. I know a lot of people that need to hear this message today. So I hope you'll be sharing this and recommending it and encouraging your friends and family to check out Sabbath Space as well. And be sure to subscribe to our YouTube channel, Collide Kids Podcast, where you can watch the full-length interview for today's episode. You know, a great way to support this podcast is to leave a rating and a review. When you do that, it really does help other people find out about the show. And I always love reading those and hearing what you think about it. Another way you can support the podcast is to shop on Amazon using our affiliate link. You can find that on our website, collidekidspodcast.com. Just click the Amazon link, and a small portion of your purchase helps keep the show going. And anytime you think about it, I always appreciate your prayer support as well. Well, you guys, there's some fun things coming down the road for the Collide Kids Podcast, and I can't wait to share those things with you. So I just hope that you will keep listening and downloading and supporting and praying for us as we're moving forward. And I just really want to let you know how much I appreciate that you listen to the show and that you share this episode with other people. It's so great. It means so much to me. Well, in case no one has told you today, I would love to be the first to remind you that God loves you so much. Thanks for listening.
You don't have to go very far looking for bad news because somehow it just finds you. So finding peace in the chaos can be really difficult, but it doesn't have to be because the River mobile app exists. The River is a Christian music radio station dedicated to playing music to help you get through life's toughest moments or life's happiest moments and everywhere in between. And all from artists who love Jesus and are real people just like you. Listening is easy. You can download it wherever you get apps from. Just search 1049 The River or listen online at riverradio.com. And know that The River is proud to partner with the Collide Kids Podcast.